call this meeting to order. Start with the pledge.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Yeah. All right. With that, I'll make a motion to approve the April 14th regular meeting minutes.
Second. Oh, wait. All right. I think there needs to be a correction on Wixon Saul's last name in the minutes. I think it's spelled W-I-T.
What page are you on? I'm sorry.
I gotta refind it. And I apologize for not having it marked.
Oh, no
as-
worries.
Whose name was it?
Jennifer Wixon Shaw, one of the new school board members.
Oh, so it would have
It
been.
was probably in committee reports.
Yeah.
Page 4. It's the first sentence of the PES. It's listed as Whitson Saw, and it should be Wix with an X. With an X
An X.
instead of a T.
All right. Any other discussion? We'll amend the minutes with that change. All those in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed?
And I'll follow that up with a motion to approve the April 14th non-public meeting minutes.
Second.
Any discussion? All those in favor? Aye. Any opposed? Okay. The Select Board will meet on the following dates at 5 p.m., Monday, May 12th, and Tuesday, May 27th. Town offices will be closed on Monday, May 26th in observance of Memorial Day, and there will be a Memorial Day parade starting at 10 a.m. at the Plymouth Armory. Well, the lineup's at 10 a.m., and then the parade steps off about 10:30. Usually, takes a little while. Ends here at Town Hall, and there's a brief ceremony to follow here. Any citizens wishing to be listed on the Select Board's agenda should notify the Town Hall before noon, the Thursday before the scheduled meeting, and all meetings are held here in Town Hall and also available on Zoom, and the Zoom information's on the town's website. All right, I don't have any chairman's comments, so we can jump straight to Scott and the town manager's report.
Great, thank you, Zach. To start off, Plymouth Selectboard resolution. You have a resolution in your packet tonight regarding state funding for higher education in K through 12 education. It's on the agenda for tonight, and I just want to thank Jason for his assistance in putting that together and editing it. Plymouth State University, I met with Jess Dutal on Monday, April 21st. We discussed the upcoming meeting with the Cabinet and Select Board with regards to student life updates and discussing the LSSA. President Burks is hoping to give an update on the PSU strategies moving forward, as well as discuss what currently is happening at the state level. Additionally, we discussed upcoming spring activities for the month of April and orientation dates for June. You do have a document in your packet tonight that I worked with Ted on, and I think, Zach, you had seen it previously, but you have an updated version in your packet tonight for our discussions with the Cabinet when they arrive around 5:45. Town Common, the Parks Department has been busy with spring cleanup of the Town Common and Town Hall areas. The picnic tables and benches have been put out in preparation of the summer. Additionally, Parks will be working with the Beautification Committee on several projects around town. 2025 full statistical property reevaluation. And Terry and I met with Whitney Consultants, our assessing contractor in the New Hampshire Department of Revenue Administration, on Thursday, April 17th, to kick off the reevaluation for 2025. Our plan is that Whitney Consultants will attend our May 27th Select Board meeting to outline the project, timeline, and communication strategy. And I just received the timeline prior to this meeting, and between May 1st and June 1st, they will be examining the sales activity and inspection of sales property as close to April 1st as practical. But Steve will be here on May 27th to discuss that further. Highway Department road projects. The Highway Department is preparing for spring roadway projects. This will include shim and overlay for Merrill Street, Winter Street, Langdon Street, and the replacement of Loon Lake Road culvert. We are in hopes the projects listed above will be completed by June 30th, 2025. The next phase of roadway projects will take place during the months of July and August. The roadway evaluation program is being used and followed with regards to the repairs and construction. The roadway evaluation will be updated during the summer of 2025, typically updated in July. And additionally, as of today, the Highway Department has moved to their summer schedule of 4 10-hour days, 6 a.m. to 4:30 p.m. Highland Street and Russell Street projects. Both projects are running behind schedule for construction this summer, 2025. Plymouth Village Water and Sewer has been delayed based on engineering and New Hampshire Department of Environmental Service approvals on both projects. The town of Plymouth is awaiting final design and engineering from HEB Engineers, the town engineering consultant, on the Highland Street project, and waiting for Plymouth Village Water and Sewer approvals for the Russell Street project. We are in hopes that both projects will be completed in the summer of 2026. 2026 Hazard Mitigation Plan update. I met with Homeland Security Emergency Management and Hubbard Consultant, our contractor for updating the town's Plymouth Mitigation Plan 2026 this morning. This was a kickoff meeting to establish our timeline, working towards completion in October of 2026. The board previously signed all of the paperwork and the grant application of which was approved. Plymouth Village Water and Sewer, just an update, they're still out flushing hydrants between April 21st and May 16th. Social media policy, I worked with Primex and Attorney Mansfield from Donahue, Tucker, and Sandella on the development of an updated social media policy based on discussion at our February 24th meeting. You have the current policy and an updated draft of the new policy for review based on a discussion at the April 14th meeting. And Ted, thank you for providing the edits to that and sending that along to us. Town Manager's Office mold remediation renovation. The mold remediation has been completed in my office and in the basement. The renovation has started. We are in hopes that the project will be complete in 3 weeks. This will be paid for by an American Rescue Plan Act ARPA grant from 2024. And I'm in hopes that I don't go home every night with a sore throat after this. So,
I'm glad your office is being removed of old.
For sure, for sure.
Employment opportunities, we have 2 firefighters EMT positions and 1 police officer position that's available. Some other news that I just wanted to update everyone on is that the Main Street lights between the Main Street Diner and Yamas were out at the beginning of last week. We had our electrician come in and the lights were back on Wednesday evening. As of Thursday, April 24th, the road bans have been lifted. And the good news is our highway mechanic has caught up with all the work on the highway trucks from winter maintenance. And now we are sending our police cruisers to the highway garage for lube, oil, filters, tires, and brakes, which is a considerable savings of sending them to the repair shop that we were. We'll be moving, after he has made that initial round, we'll be moving the fire department light vehicles down to have those serviced at the highway garage as well.
Yep. So those have previously been serviced by a local shop?
Forest Howe
Yeah,
Automotive.
Forest Howe.
Okay.
Yeah,
Oh, that's great to be bringing it in-house.
so
Good.
that concludes my report.
Let's go back to the resolution. I have a copy of that in front of me, and we have a minute here. Did everyone get a chance to review that already?
Are you ready for a motion on that?
If folks are ready, I'm ready.
I would move that we move forward with the resolution as proposed.
As written?
As written.
I'll second that.
Any discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed? Thing signed.
For your work on that, Scott.
Yeah, no, that's.
It was a good, quick turnaround by the two of you, so thank you.
Scott, do you have entertain questions on your report?
Absolutely.
So I'm curious about the revaluation. So are we using the same firm that did the revaluation last time?
That is correct. We're under contract
And
with
is there
Whitney
any
Consultants.
discussion of updating the algorithm they use on commercial properties, or are they planning to move forward kind of as they did the last one?
We move forward as the Department of Revenue Administration approves,
Yeah.
based on the RSA, so that's what they will be doing again this year.
Okay.
And if we vary much from that, those commercial businesses will all bring lawsuits against us and ask for less taxes, which on occasion we've seen in the past when we went a little too high.
Right. Right.
And by
And
on
I-
occasion, I mean every time.
Yeah.
I think, though, there are some other good questions that when Steve from Whitney Consultants is here on May 27th, we can run through with him as well.
Okay, thank you.
The only other thing we could take directly from the town manager's report is the social media policy. We wanted to, I don't know if folks had a chance to look at that. Any questions from the board on the edits here?
I was happy with the outcome of the edits. We discussed this last time. I think they came out as I had envisioned as per our discussion.
Yeah, they seemed right to me too.
Okay, I'll make a motion to approve the amended social media policy.
I'll second it.
Any discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? And that just goes, that's part of the overall employee handbook?
Yes.
So now that that's approved, I presume will we reach out to all of the boards and ensure that they are aware that they are also subject to that?
We absolutely will.
Thank you.
All right, well, we have a 5:15 hearing, which we're not quite at yet.
I can go through the investment policy real quick.
Yeah, let's do that.
So the investment policy gets reviewed by the select board. We try to do this every year. It first gets reviewed by the town treasurer. Carol Garrity signed it on April 16th. The last time we did this was October 31st, 23. Supposed to be done every year. We try our hardest. So the investment policy basically just indicates how protected your funds are for the town, safety, maintenance, making sure that it's completely liquidable, and then she tries for return on investments. It's really drafted like any other policy that's within the state. DRA, many towns use the same policy. In our case, on page 3, there's certain ways that you can invest your assets. There is a new way that was approved by DRA, and what we are doing now, these are InfraCash services, or they call them ICSs. Basically, we have, say you have $4 million in the bank. That particular bank will put that money out to several other banks, no more than $250,000 per bank, so that it's always FDIC insured, all right? Delegation of authority on number 6, all the way record keepings. You know, anytime if you have questions, comments, I'd recommend that you'd reach out to Carol Garrity and just have a conversation. Ask her what she does, how she does it, why she does it. She likes to explain this. If you guys get a chance to do that, that would be great.
The one thing with regards, I've gone through it and I try to stay out of the investment policy because of financial liability assessment review. And in review of the policy and the updates made under Section 5, it does adhere to the Department of Revenue Administration financial liability assessments on town investment policies.
So no concerns.
We use the similar policy for trustees, except they approve their own policy when it comes to that, so.
All right. I'll make a motion that we approve the Town of Plymouth investment policy.
Second.
Any discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? All right, and with that, it's 5:16, and I'll open a public hearing. The Plymouth Selectboard is holding a public hearing in accordance with RSA 3195B for the acceptance of unanticipated funds and donations from the Catherine Wells Macmillan Fund in the amount of $155,000. The purpose of this donation is to be utilized for the Plymouth Skate Park.
Mike Courier is here as well to speak on that when you're ready.
Mike, we would love for you to speak on that.
I'd love to. Unexpected was my thing too in the beginning because I didn't know how it was going to get to us. But have I got a story for you?
Yeah.
This is just some stuff I put together. I did seek out 4 builders.
What our plan is to come back at the May 12th meeting with a purchase order based on Mike's research on updating and upgrading the skateboard park for the summer of 2025.
So, does anybody want to know a little history about the park at all?
I would love that.
All right. So in 2009, I got involved with a handful of people who had been, talking about having a skate park in Plymouth. I think back then there was a lot of snowboarding going on. The flip side of that is skateboards. There was a lot of interest going on in the country, all over the place. And, I kind of saw that as like, this is a good thing. There's so many kids that, they do the organized athletics and whatnot, but in terms of sports where kids can hang out and congregate in a safe place, this would be perfect. And so we sat down. I remember the first person said, "When's our first meeting?" And I said, "When we got something to talk about," because we hadn't started raising money really or anything. I had local people, Bill Clark, insurance fella in town, Kevin Young, a doctor, Rich Gowan, myself. Denise Castingway at one point in time was involved. She does a lot with the Common Man. Lori Cushing was another. So we had a pretty good cross-section of people. Matt Eddy, who's now up in the Thornton area, but he really pushed in the very, very beginning. He and his wife, they had a business in town selling skateboards and paraphernalia and clothing and whatnot. So anyway, we were able to secure funding. Well, first of all, the property was Alex Ray's. He said, "Listen," he says, "I got 2 spots, either by the Armory, because he owned that down there, or down here by the river." And we kind of felt that we didn't want it in PSU's backyard. We wanted it to be somewhere else so everybody would feel, comfortable going and it wouldn't be taken over by anybody in particular. So we went with that, and it's proven to be a good spot because it rains and it drains. But we did all kinds of fundraising. We had a brew fest. Pat Moore, professional snowboarder, did a movie here in town. We raised $10,000 there. We ran a brew fest at Tenny Mountain when Sir Michael came into town, and that raised another $10,000. I was able to secure a Tony Hawk grant, which I felt was $5,000, but just the name alone kind of gave us credibility. And then there was a company from Maine called Who Skates, and on the side of his vehicle it said, "If your town doesn't have a skate park, it is one." And he convinced us to do a strip of about probably 20 feet wide down to a bowl. Now, a bowl is not easy to do, and looking back, I'm thinking maybe we shouldn't have, but we did. And so that's how it started off. We did skate jams, we did one in the parking lot of the courthouse. Waterville Valley brought movable jumps and all sorts of things down, and so we did dinners. We had St. Patrick's Day dinners where we Woodstock, the brewery would donate, and we would pair with a meal. So you'd have 3 or 4 different types of beer that you would pair with each portion of the meal. Those were really successful. And then there was the Rotary Club was hugely involved in that. They raised a lot of money for us as well. And when it came to, we hadn't done anything for a few years, and I said, guys, we got to do something. So we were able to get, I think it was about 600 square feet of concrete put in, just concrete. We got 6 concrete guys that had worked. There's probably like 210 years of experience amongst the 6 guys. They donated their time. We had 15,000 for concrete, and they worked one day and they put that whole thing in. So now skaters were able to bring in their own jumps and forms and stuff, and they could just move them around and skate. So it increased a lot of the usage. The university, the board club, that would do some skate jams down there, and so as we're still raising more and more money, through Pat Moore, really, we got connected with the Mud Dogs. The Mud Dogs are a bunch of guys who are skateboarders, and actually one of them is a professional snowboarder, and they flew out here from Utah to do the work on this. Now, the cost was, labor always is the biggest cost, but in terms of equipment and places to stay and food and everything, we got donations from Dick Piper, from the Common Man, from Dunkin' Donuts. Eric Bouchard gave us rooms for the guys to stay in. I mean, it was just amazing how everybody in the community really came together to make that happen. So, we raised over $250,000 total up to this point, but that's not even counting the in-kind stuff that we were able to get. And it was just amazing how, well, I shouldn't be amazed. I've been around this town long enough to know how it works. And people just came together. They were so excited. The Mud Dogs were like rock stars, these guys. And they did a very, very good job. A lot of experience amongst them. And they just were very creative. They put good flow and so on and so forth. So I'm running my own business. And I look on the skate park website, and a woman says, "Hey, does anybody know how to get a hold of my courier?" And I read that. Her name is Mina Galawari. She is from Nepal, but has worked for the CDFA, and had since left and gone to New Hampshire Charitable Foundations. So I automatically got right back to her and said, "Hey, listen, my job now is putting together projects with money, and we got a lot of money." And I said, "That sounds pretty good." So she says, "We just need you to write up what you've done," and so on and so forth, which I did. And I actually kind of jumped the gun a little bit, and I got a hold of Nor'easter Skate Parks. You'll see on the top here. They were highly recommended by Pat Moore and the Mud Dogs. I said, who would you guys recommend? Because they couldn't come back from Utah to do this. And they both mentioned Chris. So he came over, and I said, I want a soup to nuts price. I want to take everything that we currently have, and I want it all to be, spiffed up, the coping and everything fixed like it's brand new, and then put the half pipe with a horseshoe back in the right-hand corner looking south. That was the only part of the park that hadn't been finished yet. So he gave me a price of $151,000, and that was soup to nuts, so that's on the high end. When I had Lou D'Alessandro's daughter, Christina, was the person I worked directly with at New Hampshire Charitable Foundation, and she says, "Why don't you round it up to $155,000?" And I said, "Okay." So we did, and at that point in time, I knew that the people who ended up giving us the money were very interested, and they liked the project a lot. And they've done a lot in Ashland and different places around town. So I kind of jumped the gun with that, but then I realized, hey, this is 155,000. I got to get some other people involved here to see what's what. And you can see from the list, I contacted 4 others. A couple of really good ones were Primary Concrete, but they're out of Austin, Texas, and Fifth Pocket Skate Park's out of Philly. Now, these skate park builders travel all over the country to do this, so it's not unusual for you to get somebody. Well, we had the guys come in from Utah. But then Chris, being in Auburn, Maine, was like, okay, he's pretty close. But I did check Parker Construction, Inc. over in Lebanon. And as you can see, I've reached out to all of these, and Parker Construction has not responded at all. Fifth Pocket has not responded at all. And I did get, I got a return from Primary Concrete, a guy named Rich who owns the company. But he said, I couldn't get you a bid or anything right away, and we couldn't even do the project until like next fall or after. But I recommend Chris Hogan, who is Nor'easter Skate Park. So I keep hearing Chris's name. So anyway, that's kind of how it all came together. And then when we got the money, it was like, holy mackerel, So that's where we're at. That's where this money's come from. It's been a lot of effort in the community over the years. The police love us. They say the skateboarding in town has gone away, and even a lot of the tagging and things of that nature have kind of gone away. So it's just, we've never had any issues down there whatsoever, and it's just been, like right now, you could look down there and there's 20 cars parked down there and kids are skating. So it's just been, I think it's been a boon to the town, and even financially, because people have to get gas and drinks and so on and so forth. But the other piece I want to put on top of this, and there's a local donor who has gone down and put asphalt down there already for the parking that kind of cleans it up, and he poured a 40 by 40 foot concrete pad about that thick, and he's going to build a pavilion.
Cool.
That's no cost. That's
Wow.
He's doing that. So we're gonna have a beautiful pavilion overlooking a beautiful skate park, and
The pavilion will be for public use, birthday
Yeah.
parties,
Oh, yeah.
meetings, anything like that. And who Mike is talking about is Mount Prospect Academy. They bought all that property down there, and their investment to the community was paving the road in there, building a pavilion at no cost to the community, and they'll be renovating that entire building over the summer. So when you come into town, you'll have a nice view, the aesthetics of driving into the town of Plymouth.
Which building?
What's that?
Which building will they be renovating?
The thrift store.
Oh, the
building.
thrift store, yeah.
Yeah.
Oh, that's part of that parcel.
purchased that, yeah.
But if I can just make a statement, if you don't mind.
For sure, yeah.
So, Mike, on behalf of the town of Plymouth, I want to take a moment to express our sincere gratitude and deep appreciation for your remarkable efforts in securing funding for the Plymouth Skateboard Park. Your tireless hours, of which you just talked about, of grant writing, passionate community outreach, successful fundraising events, persuasive presentations to local organizations, have been instrumental in creating what we have today and what can be done with this additional funding. Your dedication, perseverance, and genuine enthusiasm for creating a valuable recreational space for our youth have truly made a significant difference. We recognize the countless hours you have volunteered and the energy you have invested in this endeavor. Your commitment to the Plymouth community and your ability to inspire others to support this vision are truly commendable. The Plymouth Skateboard Park will continue to provide a safe and engaging environment to the young people to exercise, socialize, and develop new skills. This will be a lasting legacy for our community, and your efforts have been absolutely crucial in making this happen. Additionally, you've had success in bringing Mount Prospect Academy into the project, as seen with the paving of the roadway in the new pavilion that will be built with MPA funding. We are incredibly fortunate to have you as a champion for this project and for the youth of Plymouth. We look forward to celebrating the park's completion with you and with sincere gratitude. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
You know, and it all just kind of started out as was the right thing to do. You know, the town could use one, and it really has become great. I got a text from a woman just the other day that said she drove down by Route 3, and she said, I always look to see what's going on in the skate park. And said, I saw two parents sitting, and they had two little kids, two bicycles. One had the no-pedal bikes there, which I use myself. And then the other one had pedals. But she said it just warmed my heart to see it being used. And I would go down a lot of times on Saturday mornings or Sunday mornings, and you know there's not going to be any college students or any teenagers down there that early in the morning, but little kids would be down there having picnics with their parents, and they'd be, you know, their little scooters and whatnot. So
It's one of the first places we used when we moved here with my
Yeah.
kids and their balance bikes with the no pedals and
Yeah.
going down there. So
And I do want to mention something that from day one, the board insisted that we were not going to cost the town of Plymouth a dime. And we haven't cost the town a dime. We went out and got help. We kept it away from the town in the sense that we just wanted to be able to move and get things done. You know, Alex Ray was huge in this, the Rotary Club and all these organizations. And, you know, well, we wanted to have it turnkey. And I remember Alex came to donate it to the town. People were asking questions. He says, man, he says, you can't even give anything to me. But no, that was the whole purpose in the very beginning, and I'm so thankful with this money. It really caps everything off. The only person maybe more happy about this is my wife, because I did spend a lot of time involved in this sort of thing. But it's been a great venture. It's been, you know, to see it actually come to fruition is just a dream come true.
So how soon will they be able to do the work?
Chris could start middle of May.
Wow,
Oh, wow.
Yeah.
great.
Yeah.
We
And I've
have
ki-
the funding. We have not cashed the check according to this letter.
Yep.
Just waiting for the board to approve it.
I would like to commend this effort as well, both past and future, you know, plans for the park. I think that this community has a wealth of recreation opportunities, and I think it really strengthens our community. I'm curious about, with the change of ownership, I know that Alex was very supportive, and I suspect that Mount Prospect Academy is as well. Is there any form of permanent, is there an encumbrance, or is there any kind of an easement to ensure public access to the park so that if the property were to change hands in the future, that it would be protected from someone changing that use
We do have an easement for
for the road or for the park?
the park.
Good, okay. So that will stay with the property regardless of ownership?
Correct.
Okay, that's what I
We
was.
do not
Great.
own the road or have easement to the road. That's why
Right,
Mount Prospect Academy took it upon themselves to pave that road
okay.
all the way into the back of their building.
And that was, the back, interesting. I haven't been down there. I know that it was somewhat reconfigured as a result of the Main Street drainage
Correct.
treatment area. But it is a really nice, I was a little upset that some of the pump track got disturbed a little bit.
Well, that and
That's okay.
The graffiti part
It happens.
was one of my favorites because we were on an international list of graffiti, free walls.
Oh, interesting.
Free walls. There's like 2,400 in the world,
Neat.
and we were on that list. So I'm still kind of asked about, do you think there's a spot somewhere where we could do that? Because people came from all over. I had a guy from Burlington, Vermont who came down and was doing murals down there, and the pump track going in between was pretty cool too,
Yeah.
because nobody got hurt.
No.
Everybody was respectful. I mean, it just was a great venue.
There are other places in town along the Baker and the Pemmy where there are similar opportunities, and periodically I see a little bit of effort for local kids to reinvigorate those. They always take a little bit of maintenance because they kind of, if you don't use them, they get overgrown really quickly. They're all in wet areas. But no, I'm happy that there are those opportunities for kids to kind of have some
Yeah.
independence and
You know, Annette Mitchell, professor
outlets
at
for
the
energy.
art professor at the university, took her class down there, and I was able to get a hold of an artist who came down and did the whole thing for the class. So they were able to watch the process and how it was done. And so that was pretty interesting that she brought her class down there to take a look at at graffiti. And, you know, the good stuff, not the other stuff,
Contemporary art.
you know.
How hard would it be to get a wall built there again?
You know,
Those just block walls, just with bonded
yeah, well,
block bond?
we had them all laying there. It used to be that they held the tanks of fuel down there, and I saw that, and I had been in California years ago and had gone to a graffiti battle and thought, man, we could do a graffiti park here. And then Alex and I got talking, and then we called it the Common Man Graffiti Park. And we just took what was there and used it. And then when the water and sewer deal was going on, those were taken out and they were moved. And I do want to thank Steve and the town road people for getting rid of the stuff that was left there earlier. But and the town has, from day one, has always been very, very supportive. I mean, even before, you know, if I said, hey, I want to do this, I want to do that, they were like, go for it, man, whatever you want to do, because there was nothing coming back on the town. But I just felt very supported, you know, going back to Paul Friedis and all the way up through. I mean, everybody was really very positive about the effort. And so I guess that's about it.
So do we need a motion to accept?
No, we're still in a public hearing, so we need to take any public comments on the acceptance of funds for continued development of the Plymouth Skate Park. Anybody online, Jonathan? No. Well, with that, I will close the public hearing at 5:37. And now we can entertain a motion.
Let me see if I can get it the right way. I will move that we, the town of Plymouth accept the donation of $155,000 to be used for the Plymouth, for the skate park from the Catherine Wells Macmillan Fund.
I'll second that.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed? And do we, seeing none, do we need any sort of motion around the?
We're not ready for that yet.
We'll get a purchase order or
As Scott
something.
indicated, there'll be a purchase order.
Yeah, we'll come in May 12th with a purchase order
Perfect.
before the middle of the month and get that signed and get them started.
Great.
Sounds great.
Awesome.
Thanks, Mike. We
Well,
appreciate you.
Thank you all very much for everything you do. Congratulations to the new members of the Select Board. It's good to see you both. And Ted,
Thanks for coming, Mike.
Zach, thank you, and Scott.
Been a pleasure.
Ann, everybody. I'll see you tomorrow.
Okay.
My other job.
Did I get a vote on that? I'm sorry, I may have missed it.
You
Passed
did.
Unanimous.
Yes, it was
Okay.
unanimous.
Unanimous.
I made the motion,
I
Jason
got that.
seconded.
Yep. I didn't hear the vote,
It was unanimous, yes.
Okay, we have the, well, no, the LSSA discussion with the PSU representatives.
PSUs are not here yet.
So, right, so we'll skip that. And, yeah, let's take purchase orders. We've got the 2025-2026 expense with municipal resources. Ann?
So, over the last probably year or so, we have been looking at different programs that are available under the municipal accounting, payroll, accounts payable, and we really only had two choices. It came down to either BMSI, which is the company that we are with right now, and they have changed to G-Works, or Municipal Resources, Inc., and they're offering a MTS software license and program. So Joyce and I, Scott, I don't think you've seen the program 100% yet, but the program is much better than what we have right now. The cost is as well. The cost is better than what we have right now. We have been with BMSI. I've been here for 14 years. We've been here with them before I got here. So it was time for a change. So we've already paid the first year's installment, which is this year that we're in. What you're asking to sign for now is the second installment, and the annual support and maintenance and updates. So it's $18,581, and that will come out of the 25-26 budget. If we have funding remaining in the 24-25 budget, which it looks like we could have, some of this funding may come out of the current year that we're in. So I'm asking you to approve that.
I noticed there's a conversion and setup fee. Any like staff training or anything that's needed?
That'll
along
be
those
included
lines?
in all of that.
That's all included
Yep,
here.
all
Okay.
included, yep.
I
And
know that
they,
sometimes switching to a new system like that can be
they're
intensive
right down
for
the road.
staff.
I mean, they're in Plymouth.
Oh, they are?
Yeah,
Oh,
They're in the Fox block.
yeah, they're above the coin
That's-
shop.
that's super convenient.
Yes.
This will put us leaps and bounds ahead of where we are from a technology perspective now. It will allow us to do electronic payroll, approval through the departments, the supervisors, something that I've been pushing for since I started.
Which we hope for in December.
Yep.
We got goals that we're shooting for. Departments will actually be able to go in and run their own budgets, so they can go in and look at everything and not have to wait for me to send something out, and we're hoping for that by September. So we've got some really good goals that we're shooting for.
That's great.
Excellent. I'll make a motion that we approve the municipal resources software, MTS, for $97.50, and then annual support and maintenance upgrades for $88.31, for a total of $18,581.
I'll second that.
Any discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed? All right.
You have all these in your folder there.
I do. I will pass it around.
You've got, I think you've got a few other things in there too that we've already approved.
Do we?
The social media policy,
Did that actually
or
have a
the
signature?
investment policy, I'm sorry.
That's
I was gonna say, the social media one didn't have a
Nope.
signature line. You're right, though, this one does. But everything else were, do we want to take the paving real quick before we switch to Plymouth State? Finish off purchase
So
orders?
let's knock it out while we can.
Yeah, let's do it.
Excellent.
Scott, are you gonna introduce the
Sure.
paving?
Absolutely. So this purchase order is for the Highway Department. This is all part of the road evaluation study that was done last July. So far, all of the roads that were due in 2024 have been completed. These roads that are listed here today, Merrill Street, Winter Street, and Langdon Street overlay, those are all in the 25 timeframe. You can see that Steve did go out and get 3 quotes. R&D paving was $69,982.50 for those roads that were just listed. Porter paving came in at $83,005, and GMI paving came in at $84,395. So Steve has elected to move forward with R&D paving. We did work with them last summer on all of the roads, Carmel Drive, Oak Ridge Road, and Texas Hill Road, and they did a great job, as well as Beach Hill Road. So the recommendation would be to move forward and get this work all done prior to June 30th out of the 24-25 budget.
Let's see, I'll make a motion that we award R&D paving the contract to pave, shim, and overlay Merrill Street for a total of $24,180. Pave, shim, and overlay Winter Street for a total of $31,852.50. And overlay Langdon Street for $13,950, for a grand total of $69,982.50.
Second.
Any discussion? I noticed in a couple of these quotes, there's also a section for railroad crossing. Did we decide not to pave that small little section, or are we doing that as a separate thing?
So we do have the money for that, Zach. We're actually waiting for New Hampshire Department of Transportation Railroad section to come up and give the approval for us to move forward with paving that. The
Gotcha.
other piece that is in this portion of the budget is the Loon Lake Road culvert paving. So we will pave from Fairgrounds Road through the new culvert, and then take that all the way out Loon Lake Road to the dirt. Part of that money is funded through a Grafton County ARPA grant, so that has to be used on a roadway project. So that whole section will be paved once that construction starts, but we'll come back to you with another purchase order for that, and subsequently, based on the railroad crossing, once we get approval from DOT, we will come back with another purchase order for that. We're in hopes to get that included in this, but unfortunately not.
Just didn't come together. Okay, makes sense to me. Any other discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Okay. And let's switch back to Plymouth State. Hello, welcome. Please sit. So we're,
They sit in the comfy chairs.
yeah, exactly.
Thank you.
I always look forward to sitting in these chairs.
I'm sure you have a pretty
It's the best part of our meeting.
One of each.
That the board passed tonight with regards to higher education and
That's different.
funding for K-12. This will go out to the governor's office tomorrow, as well as our local representatives, senators, and Congress.
Thank you, thank you all.
Do you want one of these as well? Libby was just saying.
Appreciate that. Thank you for your time. We're excited to be here. And Phil and Jason, congratulations on your new roles. Would you like me to kick
Yes,
us off?
please do,
Are you
Jess.
sure?
No,
Okay.
yes, go ahead.
So I'm here for the CCC portion of our evening together and excited to offer a little bit of an update in terms of student life, our programs, our engagement data, and just sincere gratitude for your support.
I'm sorry, yep, thank you.
Would you like me to move the microphone?
There you go.
So sincere gratitude for your partnership. It's been a pleasure working with all of you, and certainly with Scott. We have a monthly meeting, and I'm just really appreciative of your collaboration and support of our students. And so thank you so much for having us this evening. In the packets that I gave you, there's an overview of all this data. Happy to make this available for our friends zooming in. But it's been a really big year for student life and student engagement in general on campus. We have seen over 5,000 points of participation in regular programs. We offer about 6 programs and events per day on campus in student life. And we've had over 1,100 programs and events with over 1,600 engagement opportunities to include club and organization gatherings and meetings. So it's been a big year, but really proud of our students, proud of our student leaders, and our team of staff members that help make this happen. The fitness center has seen 48,000 check-ins, just over that actually, with 966 programs, events, club gatherings in just this academic year. So a lot going on campus, and we're really proud of all of that. In terms of the Student Experience Office, they've had over 2,000 unique students participating in their offerings. Of course, you probably recognize the photos of Ski Day that happened at Tenny Mountain. So really grateful for that ongoing partnership with Tenny Mountain and the opportunity to have students go over there for skiing, snowboarding, tubing, taking a day off from class, but we also have a shuttle service running back and forth throughout the whole season. So a great opportunity there. We had a very full calendar of events this spring. You might have heard the music yesterday. You're smiling, so I take it you're metal fans. So we had Spring Fling on Saturday. It was a late night or a very early morning, depending on who you are, but certainly well past my bedtime. We sold over 1,800 tickets, so we had just under 2,000 people in the venue when we took all the staff and the safety personnel into consideration. It was a well-run event. We're grateful for the partnership with the town, and everyone is safe and healthy, which is our number one priority coming
Where
out
was
of
it
the
hosted
event.
this year?
It was on Maryline Lawn, as
Maryline
in
Lawn.
years past. Yep. The rain cooperated with us, so it was a rainy Saturday, but the sky cleared up just in time for the concert. And we had 3 student band openers, and then we had Groove Boston, the DJ, with a laser light show. Students really enjoyed the theme this year. It was United Universe, a cosmic rodeo. With the laser lights, they dressed up this year. It was very exciting. So we've heard some positive feedback from students, grateful that all went pretty well. I talked with Chief LaFave just after the event and then early Sunday morning, and we had everyone safe and accounted for, and that's obviously the top priority. Did you have something, Scott?
Yeah, I think just in something out of importance that we need to note is that we were full-staffed off campus. Like Jess said, Chief LaFave had his detail officers in there. I can tell you that we didn't have one incident off campus. We made 0 arrests, and everybody was orderly and went back to their dorm and houses after the event broke up. So we were very fortunate and didn't have any incidents.
That's fantastic.
I also heard that there was basically no cleanup to do after the event.
Oh, that's good
Is
to
that
hear.
true?
We like to hear all those things, right, President Burks?
There was some cleanup on campus. But
Yeah, we did. Our team did spend like an hour and a half well into the wee hours of the morning cleaning, and then we were delighted to have colleagues from campus join us Sunday morning for a cleanup initiative, not just on campus, but in the surrounding community. So our colleagues from athletic training, also physical plant, did a huge effort, and the counseling center, they showed up on Sunday morning. But even they said, Ted, that it wasn't that much to clean up. So really proud of our students, grateful for our colleagues who made it happen, and it is really good to hear that there wasn't much impact on the community.
No, and even, I mean, there was one Facebook thread that I saw Phil commented on. There was like 2 townspeople who were like, "Oh, it's loud," but there was more like a wave of people saying like, "You live in a college town. This isn't every night. This is once or twice a year." And it was actually, I thought,
It was quite
very
positive.
I thought it was very
positive
supportive.
and defensive, and it was nice to see.
I appreciate
Couldn't hear
that.
it from my house, so.
I didn't realize it was because I saw the Facebook thread the next morning, and I live very close, and I didn't hear it
I
either.
saw the stage set up Saturday afternoon, and I was really, what I was surprised about is I drove by at 6:30 a.m. on Sunday, and almost everything was taken down. It was like they must have worked through the night.
They did, yeah. And they had a concert on Sunday morning too, so they had to get in and get out. But I can confirm
Sounds like
that
it was well run.
thank you for saying that, Zach. My family could hear the bass on Fairgrounds Road. So we do know it does create volume and some noise in the community, but grateful for your support as it is a really big celebratory event for students.
You might have had the worst of it just because of the direction of the stage, and it's
Yeah.
a little downhill towards
Exactly.
towards the opening.
Yeah. But if I had to be up, so did they, so it was perfect for me. And then I just want to highlight the summer orientation dates in June and give Scott some gratitude for appearing front and center on the stage welcoming new Panthers to the community. I think we've been really happy with how that's gone and the tone it really sets, that we do have a welcoming community, and that Plymouth is not just the backdrop for students for 4 years, but it really is a part of a larger community. So thank you, Scott, for your help and support there. We have seen an average of 30 students per day coming by the Military Services Office, and we're really excited about our partnership with the Armory. So another great opportunity for the future. In terms of community impact on the next page, we've had 404 students involved in service learning, community engagement, volunteer efforts, and campus work study. So a lot of time invested into the larger community. We had a blood drive for the first time since pre-COVID, so that was really exciting, and we far exceeded our goal. We have plans on partnering with the American Red Cross again in the fall for another blood drive. And again, thank you to the town for helping us to promote that engagement. We had an amazing team of students go to Puerto Rico and back during spring break. They learned all about farming and eco-sustainability, so really proud of them. Of course, throughout the academic year, both in the fall and the spring, we have bi-weekly programs running with both the Bridge House and the Pema Youth Center. So different student groups go to the Bridge House every other week to prepare and share a meal with residents. It's a great opportunity for them to connect with local community members, and the same is true with the Youth Center. They help with the mentoring, the tutoring, and specifically a crafts program. Our honors program this year, for the first time ever, they have a service requirement as part of being in the honors program. So that will total about 600 to 800 hours to the community per academic year, depending on how many students are in that program. And they kicked it off with their Spread the Love project. They collected items for both the Bridge House and the Voices Against Violence shelter as well. We had a cleanup with the beautification committee, so a huge thank you to the beautification committee for working with our students on the 25th. We've done a clothing drive. These are just highlights. I didn't list everything. In terms of the Student Support Foundation, which is a peer-run organization on campus that supports students who are experiencing food insecurity and financial insecurity, they've given out over $5,000 for emergency grants through 45 different proposals. That impacted 83 students, and also those students access meals through the Swipe It Forward program. We also have 120 students who, on an active basis, access the community cupboard, which is our on-campus food pantry. So really important work happening, and there is great need on campus in terms of food and financial insecurity. And then we just came from the Student Leadership Award ceremony. So happy to be here with President Burks. We've been spending a lot of time together lately, which is good for me. I don't know how you feel about
That's
it.
great.
Okay.
Great.
Okay, I think that's the right answer. Thank you. But we just had the honor of giving the Plymouth Rotary the President's Community Partner Award of 2025 for all the work that they've done, not only in this community, but of course supporting Ukraine and the incredible efforts that they've done. So that was great. And I know President Burks right from here has to head over to the Panther, the Athletic Awards. So grateful for this time, and thank you to President Burks for bebopping all over town.
Busy afternoon.
Yes.
And then lastly, community rec. We've seen just a huge lift, pun intended, on the campus rec side. Again, over 48,000 check-ins. They've had an overall program retention rate of 83.4%. So students who participate in fitness and health programs are more likely to find their sense of community and stay right here in Plymouth. You can read all the stats because I don't want to go on and on, but huge lift over in community or campus recreation. And then just lastly, on the last page, recognizing and being really honest that, of course, we face political and financial factors. They present significant challenges. I'm sure you've all been talking about that at this level. And they also hold some opportunities in shaping our efforts to build a strong campus of learning and belonging, and working with all of our partners, including the town. Thank you for this resolution. I think that's really important. recognizing that we remain committed to empowering students, making sure they do find that sense of connection to Plymouth, collaborating with both community and campus partners, and reaffirming our purpose as educators, making sure that we are certainly a catalyst in this community for knowledge and critical thinking and societal progress, and just grateful for all your support.
I think in addition to the resolution, there's been a few towns that have been working on an op-ed that went to the governor's office today, was hand-delivered to the governor's office, and it included Durham, Concord, Plymouth, Manchester, Nashua, Lebanon, Derry, and Salem with regards to these budget cuts. And it was edited and authored by Todd Selig, the town administrator in Durham. But we all had a role in putting this together, and like I said, it was hand-delivered to the governor's office today, in hopes that they'll look at such things as, you know, the business profit tax, the business enterprise tax that were cut many, many years ago, back in 2015, which has taken away the opportunity to fund an education appropriately. So this was delivered, and I don't know if you've seen it yet, this op-ed?
No, I have not.
I'll give you a copy, and I'll send it out to the board as well tomorrow. But this is the op-ed that was delivered
Thanks, Scott.
today to the governor's office. So I will say we're trying, and we're trying to put a good word forth, and hopefully our message has been received, and they look at it and take it seriously.
No, thank you. I thank you for that, and also thank you for the resolution. I appreciate the support. I feel like over the time I've been here, it's been great to be a member of this town and community, and I think, and I hope you've seen that over the last decade, we've really focused on trying to be good partners and try to cut down on the things that caused some agony between the town and the university. And I think I was watching the event on Saturday night, and I thought the students were really well behaved, and I appreciated all the support from the town to help us through that process. But I thought it was really good, and I was glad to hear that there wasn't much trash in the rest of the town, because I think I've noticed over the course of time the students have really been evolving in what their interests are, and also their dedication to studies and learning, and I think that's really great. Just to give you a little bit of background on what's going on, the system is going through now plans to figure out how to respond to the House's 30% cut in budget funding. It was really on top of the 8% cut that we were having already from Governor Sununu. We'd carry on through AOT. So it's a challenge. We're in a situation where we were last in funding, and now we're like half last in funding, however that goes. But I think we're trying to figure out what the shape of the system and the individual universities should be going forward. Every university in the system is struggling, even UNH. So it's not something that's not touching all of us at this point. So I think we're working through, is this the right model for the system to go forward? How do we look at ourselves over the next 3 to 5 years as if this kind of funding profile continues, and what do we need to do? Now, on the positive side, I think applications have been pretty good this year, and deposits are up over last year. The only year they aren't up over is the year before that, which was a really good year at this point, where we had a lot of deposits early on. So I think that's good. The FAFSA crisis wasn't quite a crisis this year. It hit our students particularly hard, because a lot of our students come from the North Country, and so from Lakes Region on north. So they got hit pretty hard with the pandemic, and that resulted in some financial challenges that they had. So it's good to see some return. It's good to also see the interest. I was at a admitted students day the other day, I think it was 2 weekends ago, and all the students I talked to were excited about coming to PSU. So that was good news. I think we've started the 96 credit degrees, so we've got 5 of those, as I talked about last time I was here. We got it through all the individual groups and faculty that had to approve it, and it's launching next year. It'll be a small group coming in, I imagine, but it's a start for 5 degree programs that we think will be pretty great. I'm particularly excited about some of the new programs like the cybersecurity, the robotics 3-year program in partnership with Lakes Region, and then I think the business administration will be great. I think the adventure ed with going with a 3-year program, and then on all these programs we're looking at what's the 4th year could be a co-op experience, and we're looking at developing a co-op experience across a lot of our different programs because we really see the need for students to be able to have that connection with business and industry, so they built that network. They do that a lot with interns, and the cluster's working with the various community partners out there, but I think we need to go the next step and more like a semester-long co-op experience. So Jess is one of the leads in that effort and her team, and then Academic ACAC is working on it. So I think it's we're doing some exciting things. I think the cluster majors have been doing well. Forensics, which was when we started, has been very popular with students. We'll be adding a forensics professor in that area. I think the other cluster majors are helping support some of the underlying majors that are really critical in the sciences and in the humanities. So lots of change, a lot of rethinking some things. We're looking at an integrated liberal arts program, which would focus on the sort of cluster view of what are the 7 pillars of the liberal arts and how they fit together. And then that would form the basis for the Gen Ed program across the different units and majors across the campus, and provide majors within the liberal arts. So I know you might have heard that we were eliminating the humanities, but that's not the case. What we are doing is rethinking it and thinking about how do we build the connections between what the students are taking and their first job opportunities. Because what has been found is for liberal arts that sometimes the first 5 years are difficult and challenging. Although they do well in the long run, it's getting them connected right away as they graduate. So that's some of the things we're working on. It's to look a little different. We have to keep evolving each year. I think we try to stay on the cutting edge of what's happening in education. I think we have done that. The interdisciplinary work with clusters has been a leader that's gone out throughout the U.S. And then our work with the 96 credit degrees, we were one of the very first in the nation to do that. So that's kind of where we are. I think we're positioned pretty well, but we also are kind of troubled and kind of have to work really hard to overcome whatever budget cuts that we get from, because the way I look at it, there's going to be some kind of cut. The question is how bad the cut is going to be. But I think long term, New Hampshire has to look at what it wants to do with higher education. I really do think there needs to be a state sort of strategy as where higher education fits into that. And I think that would help us chart the future both within the academy and in the state as a whole. So.
Can I ask a question?
Yeah.
I seem to recall a few years ago there was a tuition freeze. Is that still active?
There's been a tuition freeze for 5 years.
Yeah.
And this year is the first year we're raising it at 2.5%.
Okay. So 2.5% is the allowed tuition increase, but looking at a 30% reduction in
right.
state funding.
It doesn't quite
I know those don't line up, but it certainly is a challenge.
Yeah. So I think, I think sometimes back about it, I kind of was a little bit against the tuition freeze because I was worried about the cumulative effect of that. At the same time, the competition from other states is getting absolutely critical. A lot of states are making investments in the higher education, particularly our neighbors, particularly to the south. So I know that Bridgewater, which is actually a competitor of ours in both applications, but also is a good friend. I'm a friend with the president down there, but they're now moving to anything less than $125,000 you can go for free if you're in the state of New Hampshire. So, in the state of Massachusetts. So, it's challenging. It's a challenging time for higher education, and it's particularly challenging in New Hampshire. But that's why we're working really hard to adjust and adapt and continuing to evolve as an institution and stay on the cutting edge of what we're doing. So.
Are you concerned about grant funding as a secondary thing also kind of being at risk in this moment?
Yeah, what's at risk for us mostly are grants that we have gotten direct from our congressional delegation. We have about $2.5 million of grants that go from various applications we've made to various agencies. Some of them are at risk, but generally it's such a small part of what we do that its effect is probably not going to be large. And one of the largest grants is in the mental health area. I just don't think they're going to be touching that. So I feel pretty comfortable, whereas UNH is in a pretty vulnerable position because they have significant grants levels. So they're about over $200 million. So there's a real challenge. So they're watching it very carefully. See what happens.
Well, I think we're all, you know, we share in the challenge of a state that is not valuing education the way that we feel that they should. I think the state should put their money behind the concept that, you know, it's worth investing in students.
Well, the thing I always look at it is, and it's, I think, a really good point, Philip. The way I look at it is the higher education, UNH, Keene, and Plymouth, bring in dollar value from students coming in and spending here far more than the state contributes to the institution. So it's brought in lots, and then on top of that you put $200,000 in grants from just UNH that come into the state, and a lot of them are federal, so you wouldn't get them otherwise. So you figure those two things, when you add up the amount of impact, just direct dollars coming into the state in both student numbers and in the grants and research, it's far more than the state invests in the university system, which I always kind of like. I say, here's a place you can put $1 where you get a pretty good return on what you're doing. So.
And that's not to mention the actual population retention that
Right,
you get as
exactly.
well by young people, professionals, et cetera, that
Yes, that's another
radiate
thing.
out from those
Because
universities.
if those students weren't coming here and they were going elsewhere, it's going to be hard for them to come back. And then you wouldn't have the students coming in from the outside, which are adding to the pool of talent that you got here, because you wouldn't have it. So it's, I don't understand the logic exactly, but it's something we have to work with.
Has PSU or USNH done any lobbying?
Oh, yes.
Legislature to
Considerable amount. I think we've done a lot of talking with the senators. I feel more comfortable with the Senate. I'm not sure exactly what happened in the House. I do worry about the Committee of Conference, what that's going to come out with. The chair and the chancellor were just down there doing some conversations with the legislature just Friday, I think it was, and there was a report in there. They had the BIA was down there also to help them out. So the business community has been really supportive. We've been, Tenny Mountain's been also working in some areas about how do we build a life science capability up here, which I think is exciting. And a research park, which we've always kind of wanted to, and I think make good partnership there. But I think it's going to take the state figuring out that this is an investment that pays back every year.
So it's not something that you have to worry about. You're making an investment and it's going to be 20 years down the road before. If you don't make the investment, you're really going to feel it 20 years down the road, but it pays back every single year. That's the thing that always gets to me about
Does the system have like data showing like how much retention for people who stay in New Hampshire after graduation?
They do. They do. It runs generally about, of all the students coming in from the outside and students that are in here, it's about 50%. And it would be higher if those students could find housing and a place up here. So it's not they don't want to. It's really tough to find housing.
It's hard for them to afford to stay here.
Yeah, that's so they end up sometimes going down to Boston. It's a little bit higher salaries.
Which is interesting because
Cost
housing's
is
not
there.
cheaper in Boston.
Yeah.
No,
There's
it
the
isn't.
availability.
But the wages are
The
there to
salaries.
support it.
The
Yes.
salaries weren't.
So,
to
yeah,
support
it really makes the case that it's not a housing cost issue as much as our
It's the-
wages in this market don't
It's
support.
you're right, it's wages, and
affordability.
it is availability, some
Yeah.
of housing.
Right.
That's the thing.
Yeah, we really don't have a lot available right
Right.
here.
That's why you might have seen it in the paper, where we've been talking about how do we convert some of the houses that we have on campus, and maybe if we have, right now we're doing pretty good on filling the residence halls, so all's good there, but if we get a decline in that, because of all the things that are going on the way, one of the things we always get is a reaction when the state acts like they're not going to fund higher education, is to get the students kind of saying, do we want to go there because of that? So, and maybe we can convert some of the residence hall areas to workforce housing. If nothing else, we can't hire people because they don't find a place to live, so,
Well, and there's nothing worse for the community than empty buildings.
yes, I agree with you, I agree.
I can say, we're happy to say that we're keeping one of your graduates this year as a full-time staff member here with the town of Plymouth in the planning department.
That's great.
So she came to us as an intern and has worked as an intern, as a part-time employee, and will become a full-time town of Plymouth employee on July 1st.
Oh, good.
We're lucky to have her.
We are.
Well, that's good to hear.
Ted, do you want me to?
Sure, if timing's right.
So, obviously, we're here to discuss the next LSSA agreement, and we know that that expires on June 30th. So, I've been doing a lot of conversations with Ted and just trying to rack my brain and figure out how can we both come to an agreement on what could work both for the university and the town. And I've done all sorts of research, and I've talked to many universities across the country on how they come up with a formula on what makes sense. Because I think we sit here today and we say the university pays us $400,000, but for what? For what? You can't explain what you're paying $400,000 for, and we can't explain. So what I have come back to is that there's a reason why it was called the LSSA, Life Safety Services Agreement, because it really should evolve around police, fire, and public works. And how do we come up with a formula that makes sense on how how the university reimburse police, how the university would reimburse fire, and public works. So something to take back and think about in moving forward is that we know this year, 2024, I won't go 2025 year to date, we responded to the university 141 times for fire and EMS. We never would want to bill for EMS because we bill the patient independently of that. But we know 20% of those calls, close to 25% of those calls are fire-related calls or some type of investigation. So one train of thought is that the university would pay 25% of the fire department budget, which would roughly be about $140,000. The other train of thought is we know that we respond about 10% of the time, the police department responds, about 10% of the time to assist either safety services, either university police, or some other call when there isn't somebody actively on duty at Plymouth State University. And so if we looked at 10% of the police department budget, excluding parking and school resource officer, that would be about $167,000, give or take. Then if we look at roads and streets, and the National Public Works Association says that it costs about $7,600 per mile of street and sidewalks. And currently, the Public Works Director is evaluating those streets and sidewalks that are within the campus that house one of your buildings. And roughly, it's about 6 miles, give or take, both of street and sidewalks. And at $7,600 per mile, it's about $45,900. Then we know we do have a fire department tower truck. That the only reason we have a 100-foot tower truck is for the dorms that reside in the town of Plymouth on campus. And we know that that truck is going to cost us about $2.3 million to replace in 2035. A lot of money. So maybe the university could consider providing the town with $75,000 a year towards our capital improvement program, so that when we get to that time we need to purchase that new piece of apparatus, it would be 50-50 funding. The town and the university would have contributed to that. So we know if we look at all those, a rough number is about $352,000, give or take, based on using those projections. And we know that this year we'll be billing the university $38,560 for dispatch services. And we know that we most likely will continue to fill some shifts and bill with regards to that roughly about $100,000. We know that in 2024, 2025, the university has paid us $629,781. That comes from police details, 2,300 hours at $60 an hour for $188,000. Fire reimbursement of about $2,700. Dispatch, $38,593. And the LSSA, which is $400,000 currently. So those are some thoughts on how we could create a formula that could go up, could go down. If the percentage of calls on campus goes up, the cost could go up after 3-5 years, whatever
Whatever the agreement.
whatever the agreement would state. But trying to be able to provide the university, the taxpayers, and the residents of Plymouth a funding formula that actually has some teeth to it, that takes into consideration the police, the fire, and the public works.
Sounds reasonable. It'll be interesting to see what happens after the June meeting, and what the system decides to do. It may affect that, and what happens with the university and the funding that it receives. But it sounds like a reasonable approach to try to figure out a way that would have some backing for what the number is that we have, so. Yeah.
And that's ultimately what we're after, is just something that makes sense to both parties that we can agree to. And Scott, you could probably write that and send it along to him, that
Oh,
formula.
absolutely. I'll put it in an email and send it along.
You can think about it, we can come back
Yeah.
and meet.
I mean, it's just something, like I said, I spent the weekend racking my brain trying to figure this out. And yeah, could you put a number per student? That'd be great, but there's a lot of students that don't live on campus, that maybe come to class and don't spend any time here. So I don't think that's a funding formula that works for everybody. Whereas this here are actually directed services that the town of Plymouth is providing to the university and its students.
And it's also not too dissimilar in form to what we've done with the other towns that we service for ambulance service and what have you.
Correct. But like I said, the ambulance, that, we bill those students, we bill, I mean, that's not included. We obviously would include any monies with regards to the parking enforcement, any monies with regards to school resource officer. These are direct impact on the town of Plymouth services that we provide.
Well, I'll, when you send it, send a copy to Tracy. I'm sure she'll be interested.
Okay. Yep.
I'm sure. Finance officer being interested in finance, I don't know.
And, you know, I mean, I think there's other things, and, you know, we tried to brainstorm and put some things together, and trying to think about the specific needs of both the university and the town, and creating a long-term partnership vision. And is there opportunity for the town and the university to apply for joint grant applications, and trying to get funding for both the university and the town of how it would reduce the responsibility of the taxpayers and reduce the responsibility of the university. But I think this is a start of some desired outcomes that sound reasonable at, you know, face value. And hopefully we can continue to meet and work forward with regards to some type of resolution once you have additional information, as you stated.
Right. And we'll know more as this year goes on, but, and we might have to scale it to be some relationship to the number of students we have, simply because we're affected by that, but it sounds like a good approach.
Scott, could you provide any historical data that would give them a perspective on how this would look from previous years? Maybe go back 2 or 3 years?
Yes, and I don't have all of that with me, but I can tell you that it would roughly, I mean, this is outside of the details that we've been covering to make sure that there's police coverage on campus. Outside of that, it ranges anywhere from 352,000 to 491,000 over past years. This year, looking at the numbers, rough numbers that I have in front of me today, it's roughly 352, but then once you add the dispatch in, and then you have the additional police services, if provided, for details and covering shifts on campus, it ranges up to the 692,000 that we've received over the last year.
And Scott, we wanted to make sure that the details that they are specifically choosing would be in the LSSA agreement, would be a specific rate that they could take to whoever needs to see it.
Right, and currently what we do to work through our partnership is that we do not charge the actual detail rate for our police officers. We actually reduce that because of the university allowing our police officers to use one of your cruisers. So we don't have the vehicle expense, we don't have the fuel expense, we don't have the maintenance expense. So we reduced our rate of pay for that purpose.
Okay, that's a good start.
Shall we schedule another meeting?
Yeah, when does the current LSSA expire?
6/30/25.
Okay, and you'll know more about your funding probably not till early June?
I think the last date for them deciding or signing off on it is, it's a few days before the trustee meeting on the 27th and 28th, so.
27th, 28th of June, or?
Yeah, and so we'll know a lot by then, because the system will have reacted to whatever comes out, and we will have, they're working on 3 different models for how the system will go forward. We'll have a really good picture, hopefully then, about which direction we're going to go. May not be all resolved, but at least we'll have a lot of ideas about that. So you may have to wait a little bit on getting this worked out, but I think the rough time frame is we'll know a pretty good picture by the end of June.
Okay. It may put us in a position where we don't have an LSSA in place for July.
Yeah, but, students don't come back until.
Maybe another meeting with regards to, after I put this in an email to you, send it to you, you have time to look at it, digest it, and evaluate it. Maybe we could hold another meeting have them in at the first part of June,
Yeah.
to have additional conversation with regards to thoughts on what we have presented.
Mm-hmm.
That sounds fine.
Yeah. I'm just worried about having a period of time where we don't have an agreement in place.
Right.
You could just put an extension on it for whatever the time frame is.
I was wondering if there
Yeah.
was any kind of an evergreen clause in the existing.
We'd have to review, we can review it tomorrow to see. Yeah,
But I think in previous years, we've extended it.
we have.
Yeah.
Jess, I'll work with you on setting up a meeting for our first meeting in June.
Sounds good.
Right?
Yeah.
Sounds good, yeah.
Well, thanks for the support. We appreciate it. Thanks for being a partner, and you've been a great partner.
And if there's anything else we can do to lobby with the governor or the state on your behalf from our seats, we know the importance of a vibrant education system in the state, in our community, in our backyard. So don't hesitate to ask. This board will do whatever we can to. I mean, I'm speaking for the rest of you, but we just signed signed a very clear thing that says that we'll do whatever we can. So please let us know if we can be
We
helpful.
appreciate that, Zach. We do. Thanks a lot.
Thank you.
You want to keep these, or you want me
Nope,
to?
you can have those.
Okay.
You can always print more.
I'll include the link to that document in my email as well.
Okay. Sounds great. Thanks a lot.
Thanks for coming.
Good seeing you all again. We see you more often. Jason, we see you every week.
I feel like I see you a fair amount of time.
See you all. Take
Have a
care.
good day.
All right.
Okay, that takes us to. I don't see this on our agenda. Is this on our agenda?
Signature file?
I think we're on signature file.
Energy Commission?
I'm sorry, that's
Oh,
the
no.
appointment that you approved at the last meeting, but we didn't have anything in writing, so they haven't had a meeting yet, so you just
So we
need
just
to
need to sign it. We've already approved this.
Right.
Thank you. I appreciate somebody having my memory. What do you got in the signature file?
Okay, so I have, let's see, this is a veterans credit. Property has now gone into a trust and the applicant meets qualifications. So I just need a signature on that one. And the same here, the actual veteran on the property has passed away, so this is, his spouse is applying for the exemption and she qualifies, veteran exemption. And that's all I had.
Wow. Jason, do you want to date this, or
Oh, thank you. Yeah, if you'll date that one, I'll make sure I date this one. Thank you.
what is?
428. Are we gonna get the solar panel ones next meeting?
As soon as they're done, they're giving them a little extra time just to get everything in that they need to.
I'd like to, well, we have a lull in the action. I'd like to thank Scott for setting up the New Hampshire Municipal Association training for me. I did attend on Thursday. It was a great training, good value.
Excellent.
Thank you. Are you planning to attend the other?
I gotta sign up to attend the other one. I'm sorry if I dropped that ball, so.
It's still out there a little.
Yeah, it's still
Into the
there.
future.
Are you currently getting the emails from NHMA now?
I don't think I am.
I don't think I am either.
Yeah.
Okay.
I've been keeping an eye on
Yeah,
my
I
spam folder. To
I'll
make
reach
sure
back
I'm-
out to
I'm-
them.
I'm-
They say
I'm
it takes 3 to 4
anything
days
that I
to
might
approve.
need,
Well,
but-
it's been since March 12th. so-
Yeah, it's been a little while then, so.
Did you learn
But I
anything
will-
interesting to bring back?
I have a few questions. I have notes with a couple things of asterisks that I wanted to follow up on, but nothing critical. There was an entertaining discussion during the section on ethics and recusals, and there was a question about a planning board member who had proposed a zoning amendment and whether or not they should recuse themselves from voting on the planning board. It's like, I'm familiar with that one. But it was interesting because there were two attorneys there, and the gentleman who was speaking initially said, "Yeah, I thought the planning board member should recuse himself." And then I talked to my associate, and then he convinced me he shouldn't. So, interesting. So it was good.
Was this the right to know, or was this the,
We covered right to know in the
Yeah, okay.
afternoon, but it was
Local officials workshop.
Local officials workshop. It was mostly select board members. I think there were a few municipal staff members there, but it was a good training.
Good. All right, on to committee reports. You're up first.
Village Shoe and Water haven't met since we,
Haven't met.
so nothing to report.
Wayne?
I'm just trying to remember my notes.
I had to miss the last planning board
Yes,
meeting.
I was
and
there.
Zach was willing to fill in for me, but
I'm trying to remember what the heck we did.
Plan stuff?
Did the BYCO plan out on Crescent Street
Fairgrounds.
Yep.
or Page Street?
Yes, we looked at that change, which came out of HOP.
Conditional
That kind of change to put some housing in there instead of storage units, which I think is a
It's great.
net
thought-
improvement for the town.
Yeah, considering there had been 3 storage units approved in town recently, and none of them had been built, like, I thought it was a worthwhile
Yeah, it was a good pivot for him.
consideration, because once the town adopted the change in zoning last year, it opened up some opportunities that hadn't been present when they
That's right.
proposed the storage units.
And this was the first one of those that we had reviewed under that new, it's not quite a subdivision.
Right.
It's something slightly less, and so that was actually kind of interesting.
Open residential development.
Open residential development, yeah.
And I mean,
So
I
that was
think it-
interesting, just to go through that with the planning board and talk about, like, what level of scrutiny do we give this versus, normally we would do these things with a subdivision, but this
Technically,
isn't a
it's not a subdivision
subdivision, it's
'cause it was
more
one
like how,
parcel.
so it's this gray area. So it ended up being a very interesting, exercise in just like how much, how deep do we go on these sorts of things? And we sort of lean towards the not going super deep. We considered some key items, but overall we, didn't require the same level of, engineer oversight and those kinds of things that we would normally. But it was good.
Yes, I mean,
That was the
that's-
big topic of the night.
That took up a good portion of your meeting.
It did, yeah. Just trying to remember if there was anything else of interest, but I should have had my notes with me and I forgot them. School, are you good for, is it next week?
Actually, it's
Is it this week?
this Thursday. I will
Okay,
be there
you're
this
there,
week, yes, thank you.
I'm not sure. I also might be, but I'm not certain.
which meeting are you
Planning,
talking about? The
that was
planning?
planning
I'm
board.
sorry, okay.
Yeah, sorry.
Thank you.
Still trying to finish that thought. Plymouth School District, Ted.
So their next meetings are for PES on the 5th of May at 6 p.m. and PRHS on the 6th at 5 p.m.
Sounds good. Conservation?
I have notes on my phone. So they met, I can't remember the date off the top of my head. Let me look. April 15th at 7 p.m. So basically the, topics of discussion were the budget. Basically, they have a total balance of $50,561.41 according to that day. Most of the meeting was talking about the upcoming NRI contracted days with the vendor. I forget who it was off the top of my head. But they were talking about the value add of field days that they would pay for separately from the base NRI contract. They had the option of adding. So they feel that, you know, for the value that they want to add a total of 10 field days. Those would be 7 collecting data, if I can recall, and 3 processing data for around the town to give them a much better perspective on what we have, because they feel that the 3 that are included are just not quite enough to really paint the total picture. So having it an increased number is better now. They talked about the Oxbow management plan. Lisa specifically attended a meeting about that. And
That's still being written. Are they still seeking input on that? Do you remember?
I don't remember if they're still seeking input. A lot of this is still being driven by the Lakes Region Conservation Trust, or whatever that is over there.
Are they the holder of the
They're
easement?
the holder of the easement. And so Lisa attended the meeting and emphasized the importance of engaging stakeholders, including PSU, because
Right.
the proximity and the usage. I do remember in the discussion that they remarked on, over the last few years, the amount of debris and trash and garbage being left at Secret Beach has fallen off. There are several members of the commission who actually go out there and do some cleanup themselves. I also understand that the abutter, I forget the name of the abutter now, recently changed hands.
Yeah, the actual, the waterfowl area. like
Foul
that.
Link, thank you.
Is that it?
Yeah, it's
Yeah,
Foul Link.
I knew it was
Has
something.
also been doing some work as they've gone out and cleaning it up. So that's on good. Also, they discussed forming a working group on the Conservation Commission to jump onto a larger regional initiative to preserve farmland. And one of their preferences to preserve farmland along the Baker, which aligns with some of the goals that they already have, specifically like, you know, I'm having trouble with names today.
Happens.
The farm stand that everybody uses.
Longview.
Longview,
Yeah.
thank you. Gosh, I'm really in trouble today.
But there are ag fields out there that aren't owned by
Yeah.
that are, but in that
But
vicinity.
aligning those along the Baker River, which aligns with their other initiatives. They also discussed this property donation proposed by Martin Estates. It's a place down in the southern part of the town. It's a 12-acre parcel. And it's not really useful for them. And if they want to donate it to the town. But the problem with donating it to the town, this is not really a lot of value for the town or the Conservation Commission because of where it is. It may be a value to them, and that's kind of where the discussion went. There's a value for the estates because, as I understand it, that group, that is kind of defunct. But they can't completely dissolve the group without having to deal with this shared piece of property that is for the estates. And so if they
Typically,
don't,
when there's a conservation subdivision, there's a piece of land that is reserved and as undeveloped, and it's important that that be protected, but usually when covenants are written to address that, it's usually included that it can't be given to the town because it has to be permanently protected and it's not intended to be removed from the tax rolls. So
Yeah.
like,
I don't know what the
whole
specifics are.
theory of a conservation conservation subdivision is that you don't want to be decreasing the taxable area of the subdivision. So if, like, by allowing them to do an open space subdivision and reserving a piece of open space, like, the goal is that those property owners are still going to be paying their share of the taxes on that piece of property.
Yeah, I'm not really sure of the details, but it's a strange little thing where they can't, their homeowners association or whatever it's called is largely gone. They still have this thing, so they can't completely dissolve it because legal. And so they're looking for a way to, and it's a back lot. It's got this tiny, it looks like a tiny little strip of land that you could use to access it. And it's like,
And where is this?
Martin Estates.
It's off of Dick Brown Pond Road. So if you went down Route 3 South and you
Yeah.
turned onto River Road and then turned onto Dick Brown Pond Road, you go out there about a mile and a half, and on your right-hand side is Martin's Estate.
Okay,
And so this lot is out behind it.
gotcha.
There's not a lot of value for Conservation Commission to want it. And it was mentioned that in order to accept it, if it was something that we wanted, it would have to go to town meeting to formally accept it. I'm not really sure that there's any value in accepting it, but to them. There's a value to them, but not really us.
It's the downside of any kind of subdivision that has covenants that need to be maintained in perpetuity. Hopefully those covenants were recorded as encumbrances on the deeds and will go with
Yeah.
the property.
I don't know specifics, but
Yeah, I'm not sure when it was approved before my time on the planning board, but I've heard other subdivisions that were conservation, or that were open space subdivisions.
and that was largely the major topics of the meeting.
Before I go back, I remembered the other topic we did at planning board was the solar, we approved the solar array that's going to
Pine Gate-
go.
Pine Gate Village.
At Pine Gate, right on the corner where, you go into the recycling center. Sort of on that, there's a kind of a wooded but vacant little lot right there that's owned by that Pine Gate development, and, they're gonna build a solar array on that. All right, capital improvement, no report. LRPC. I'm guessing we have no report. Parks and Rec. No Mary Ann.
Marianne's not here, but they had just met prior, and they don't meet regularly, so
It'll be a
I
while.
wouldn't expect one until summer.
Yep. Energy Commission.
Has not met since our last meeting.
Same with Advisory Budget Committee, PSU negotiations.
Kind of just touched on
We said we
today.
didn't-
Just we're knee deep in that. Chamber of Commerce, no Mary Ann. Perlac, no Bill. Any news on the emergency building?
Kevin was out with a family emergency, so he's didn't have the chance to follow up with the Turner Group, but he will be back on Wednesday and has a call with Bill Hickey from the Turner Group on Wednesday.
Sounds good. And then union negotiations
Not till summer.
till summer.
When will that, do we have an idea when that will commence?
I would say probably July.
Okay.
I mean, if it's, and that's just, July would probably be like the intro meeting.
I'll need a
late July.
reminder, but I'll be.
That's okay, it's always on the agenda.
It's here to remind us that it's coming.
Yep.
Any public comment?
We had to know that he was gonna come.
It's been very patient.
Yes.
Nick Mason from High Street. As I was here, you got to bear with me because I'm trying to tie the thoughts together. First of all, I do want to congratulate you guys on joining the select board, and it might just be because I'm turning 50 this year, but it feels like a very symbolic time where between the relatively new police chief, fire chief, new select board members. It seems like maybe Generation X and the millennials have sort of assumed a little bit of power within the town, which feels good. That was not noticed as a CCC meeting. Jess referred to it as one. I don't know. And then I noticed that you don't have the CCC on your list of committees anymore. I realized that a lot of people don't see value in this. I'm going to say, this is me trying to tie my three different thoughts here together, is that the CCC should actually change its, first of all, you tried this in the fall, having the CCC meeting during public comment, essentially during a select board meeting. I don't think that works very well. First of all, with them sitting here facing you guys, nobody but me in the public section, it sort of loses the value or the spirit of the CCC meeting, which is that there is no agenda that is being delayed while the CCC meeting is going on. Oops, excuse me. And also that people sit in a circle with each other instead of you guys having a circle and then the community being out here separate from it. So if you're going to continue with the CCC meeting, which I think that you should, because I've always found value in it, but I do think that you should change the focus. The CCC meeting historically was about student behavior in the neighborhoods, and I think everybody, you heard it today from the president, I think Scott said it, everybody's, we don't see the number of summonses that we did 10 years ago. We don't see the number of behavior issues that we did 10 years ago. As PSU's enrollment is declining, and they are laying people off and stuff like that, as I said at one of the planning board meetings, as an economic driver and as a status in the town, they are still in decline, but obviously they still are the 800-pound gorilla. They still have a big footprint in the town. At town meeting this year, and I feel like every year during the funding the nonprofits section of town meeting, that Warren article, there was the gentleman, Bond, I believe is his last name, got up several times, and I feel like every year during that section, somebody gets up and says something like, 60% of our properties are non-taxed and blah, blah, blah. That seems to be a stat that gets thrown around. And I think one of the things we need to find a new way to talk about is the difference between a nonprofit organization like your Meals on Wheels, your Penny Youth Center, your Voices Against Violence, and getting down to it, and this is obviously too macro for this group, but in New Hampshire, we fund things with the property tax. So the problematic area is nonprofit organizations that own large, valuable pieces of property in the town and don't pay tax on them. That's why you're having a LSSA conversation with President Burks. And I think that really should be the focus of the CCC, should essentially be a community-based cost-benefit analysis of living in a college town.
Sorry, what is the CCC?
The
Campus
CCC.
Community
There we go.
Which
Right?
is-
See,
Just for quick clarification,
yeah.
Nick, tonight's was not a CCC
Right, okay, and
meeting.
that's fine, that's fine.
I'm not sure why Jess referred to it that way.
I think
It-
that's just kind of what she assumed.
Yeah, tonight was the first of our renegotiation of the life safety
Right.
service agreement, so not CCC.
She used it. It was just kind of the I don't know, the foreplay before the LSSA discussion, I would guess. But the CCC is
Sorry, Jason, did you
Campus Community Council.
Yeah,
Like I said, it started probably in the 90s or late 80s, and it generally was related to, as you can imagine, in this town, if you move to a house on Russell Street or Keeble, Garland, Wentworth, and then all of a sudden on a Thursday night there are people peeing on the tires of your car and shouting. And so it was like a way to diffuse a little bit. People running the meeting would generally try to bring in the large landlords. It was definitely one where the squeaky wheel sort of thing. If there was someone who was complaining a lot to the town or to the university, they would say, well, why don't you come to the CCC meeting and we can at least commiserate with you or something like that. Anyway, so people get up and they lament the 60% of this town is nonprofits sort of thing. But when you really get down to it, as you can see from these discussions, getting money from the university system of New Hampshire is going to be like getting blood from a stone, essentially. Then you have our large medical facilities that are nonprofits. The town has already lost a lawsuit that resulted in people's taxes going up from trying to pursue revenue related to the nonprofit status of one of them. So I would assume that most of you guys will be a little bit hesitant to take action like that again. And then the other large property owning nonprofit group is the classic third rail of American politics, which is, I think we have 13 churches in this town, and I'm assuming none of you are gonna go out of your way to say that these churches should be taxed or have some sort of pilot program. So that's the
Well, I would make one exception to that, is that if we could find a way to tax the freaking school, what the heck's that thing called? Christian Cavalry.
Calvin Christian.
That one pisses me off. I'm just going to say it on public record. That is a educational school with one student.
Wow, yeah.
Oh, really?
One student
And I mean, how much tax revenue are
who
we
does
losing?
not attend in person, as far as I'm
How
aware.
much tax revenue are we losing due to their nonprofit
that's,
status?
He's valued almost $1 million.
Right. Wow.
So,
Okay.
so not
So there you go. So not insignificant, right?
Not insignificant.
And so my point is, the point I'm trying to make is when somebody gets up and they have that complaint, and I realize, like, I do appreciate the work that you did to whittle down that nonprofit list, and I know Bill Bolton was doing a lot of stuff, and I realize Plymouth is uniquely affected by this issue more so than any other community in New Hampshire, probably, on a per capita basis. But what you don't want is just in order to be able to throw a very meager piece of red meat to the sort of people who are up in arms about these nonprofits, is that the problem is the PSU, the medical facilities, and the churches, and you don't have a good response to those, but you can whittle stuff down. And so, unfortunately, we have people going over with a fine-tooth comb and trying to look to take money away from the Voices Against Violence, PEMI Youth Center, and things like that are worthwhile nonprofits that do not, I guess the PEMI Youth Center has their own building, so maybe that's different. I should not speak, but like small nonprofits that do not own the real estate that they live in, that are worthwhile to the community, should not bear the brunt of the fact that the problem lies in how we fund things in New Hampshire with property tax.
But I think what you have to realize, Nick, is that for the last 2 years, we have tried to introduce legislation, and it's thrown out. We introduced legislation this year with regards to removing churches, removing the schools, and the lobbying from the medical community with regards to the mental health community is so strong and conquered. It's not the town of Plymouth. We're trying. There's nothing we can do.
Right.
Our hands are tied.
And I think that's what I'm saying. You need to have this communication with the public, and I think it's good if you guys did it preemptively so that it's not something that it's reactive and it's somebody ranting at town meeting, or it's somebody who's really...
We have very proactively discussed it at select board meetings. We proactively discussed it when Bill was currently still on the board, who was the legislator who introduced it into the House. We proactively have talked about this for 2.5 years now.
I agree, and I don't want you to get defensive, because like I said, I do think you're doing a good job.
Is that
Yes, to the community. Like
less
once
about fighting the
again,
particular problem? You're suggesting the problem's intractable, and so we should educate this community that
we
it's
should
not
do a
solvable.
better job about, yes, and that's just one topic, obviously, but I read the Facebook comment that you guys were referencing about Spring Fling. In my opinion, some of the responses were like a little bit online bullying, calling people Karens, saying, you moved to a college town, what do you expect? Move out, blah, blah, blah. Like that, those are pretty stock sort of, I don't appreciate those answers necessarily. But I thought your response, Phil, was like appropriate and good. I guess, so those were two things. And then the other thing, so the communication is falling away a little bit with the university, not just that this was not really a CCC meeting that was misinterpreted as a CCC meeting, but I think the crux of that Facebook comment was really there are, once again, people moving into town because as the university shrinks and their influence shrinks, we have more and more people moving into town who are not necessarily affiliated in any way with the university. I mean, I run a business that's ancillary to the university, so I try to pay attention to what's going on and I know stuff, but I know that anecdotally I had neighbors who had no idea it was Spring Fling weekend. And obviously these people online don't really necessarily know what's going on. So I think some of the communication with the college has fallen away. I don't know that the town put out anything officially letting everybody know, hey, it's going to be Spring Fling weekend this weekend.
We talked about it at our last 2 select board meetings.
Right.
We didn't put it in the, we could have put it in the newsletter.
I know. What do you do?
We could have put it in the newsletter.
Right.
It has been in the newsletter.
Oh, it has been in the
before,
newsletter? All right.
Was it? I never read it in the newsletter, and I generally rate those things.
Okay.
I'm just saying, they're obviously, I'm not saying you're not doing it, I'm just saying you got to sometimes meet people where they are, and there are people out there who didn't realize that that was going on. And so this is just communication
They've got to be
breakdown.
actively involved, Nick.
What'd you
Okay?
say?
They've got to be actively involved. If you want to be part of the community, you've got to be actively involved in the community. We are as transparent.
I know.
We are as
I don't mean for you to,
transparent as-
Scott, this was not for you to get defensive about this.
Well,
Like, 'cause
some of the accusations that you're making here tonight is that we don't communicate effectively and that we didn't discuss the nonprofits. We discuss that all the time. I have people in here every day talking about it, and
think
we
you're-
discuss it. So
we can talk
do
off
put it
the
out
off the
there.
record, but I think you're misinterpreting a little bit of what I said, and I don't think I've made any accusations here, respectfully.
So
We
Nick,
can agree to disagree.
so Nick, one of the things I will say is when we did have those regular campus community council meetings, the only people that showed up were a handful of landlords.
You're right, but remember, Ted, that you came in at the tail end of that, and I will tell you, Marlon Collingwood killed those meetings. I mean, he was incredibly defensive. He angered the landlords. He basically buffaloed, stonewalled, and gaslit people to the point where they're like, why am I coming to this meeting? And that's essentially what killed those meetings, in my opinion, was his term running them after Jeff Furlone moved on and before it was passed off to you. That's kind of where those meetings took a dive. Anyway, I've been up here for too long. I've angered the town manager. I do think
Never
you
get
guys are
angry.
all.
Always welcome comments.
I think you
Nick-
guys are doing a great job.
Thanks for coming.
You're welcome.
We appreciate that we have somebody in the
Right,
audience,
we
so
have
thanks for
one-
coming.
Thanks for sharing your thoughts, Nick.
Yeah, appreciate it. And I think that we should have a conversation about community,
I
campus
think we
community
have to
council.
have the communication, even if it's just me. Maybe I'll go out and shout from the rooftops or stand on my soapbox, and then word
No,
trickles out to other people. So-
I'm sure, again, tonight wasn't a CCC, but had it been a CCC, I am sure the
You'd have had two
other,
other landlords here, and that's probably it.
Yeah.
or they'd be real pissed off with us tomorrow that they hadn't been told about it, right? Like that would, be,
I don't know. I mean, only if they missed some juicy piece of information, which I don't think there was in there.
But again,
Yeah.
because it wasn't a CCC. But yeah, so I think that there is a point there to be made about, how do we help? Scott has done an absolutely fantastic job connecting the town administration with the university administration in a way that I don't think has existed in
No,
this town.
I don't think it's ever been this good.
I mean, I've been here for 20 years. I can't ever remember the relationship between the town administration and the college being as good as it is right now. But that doesn't necessarily mean that we are then making that secondary connection of how do we, as the town,
Get that back to the.
get the community involved in that conversation. And I would tend to agree with you, Scott, that like, hey, people show up. It'd be nice to have some conversation with people from the audience. But in lieu of that, what can we do to help? And I don't have any answers. I'm just saying like, hey, if that's worth having a conversation about, and it's worth engaging with some folks who really care about that happening.
The other thing that I think the conversation, a lot of people, especially if they're new to a town like Plymouth and they're not familiar with the town meeting form of government, is a lot of people don't realize that like arc of your budget process, right, from December to March is like the crux time of when stuff is going on and important decisions are being made and things are warrant articles are being crafted and that sort of stuff. I think there's a lot of people who just, they don't, if you're moved here from a bigger place, a city with a city council sort of setup, like they don't understand how the government works. And so I think that's just part of like a educational thing that needs to be put forward to people.
We tried to do with every new resident gets a welcome letter now.
Yeah, which is a new thing.
Goes through that.
Yeah, I don't know if you've seen that. But, it's probably something we put in that late last summer.
in
I mean,
place
how
for
do
2
you,
months
so
now.
like every new,
Oh, okay.
every
It's only
new
a few months.
home purchase,
I was thinking it was late last year.
right?
No, it's
Yeah,
only been a couple
it's,
months.
it's,
I
it's
mean, you're not
tied to
gonna catch
purchase.
every renter who
No.
comes into town, who's, I mean, those people.
If they come in to register a car and they're newly registering car, they get one.
Okay.
If they buy a home, they get one.
Right,
If
okay,
they have contact with the town clerk, the tax collector, or the town office, they get a letter.
That's awesome.
That high level outlines.
If I can contribute, I do think there is a general awareness of the issues that you're raising, but I don't think that the responsibility for awareness around that I don't think Scott should feel like it's the responsibility of you or anyone at this table to put that out there. Like, I think I think the town does a really good job of providing a level base of information about the situation around our tax rate. And you know, I think there, you know, from the discussions I see on social media, I think there is a pretty good general awareness of the situation. I mean, people don't like it, but at the same time, you know, I'm not sure that any amount of discussion is gonna change that.
no, and I mean, some people just need to learn how to use a search engine to find the answer to the question and not put it out on the
Yeah.
social media chatterbox boards.
But, you know, I think in as long as we're building community and having positive discussions around those topics, you know, I think it only helps us all be on the same page and have respectful conversations about it.
All right, well, hey,
Thank you.
Well, thank you
Appreciate it,
again.
Nick.
Scott, does the town have any kind of, the town itself have any kind of social media accounts or handles or things like that?
Yep, we have the Town of Plymouth's Facebook page
Okay.
that we post on, and we have an Instagram page as well that we post on.
Our main thing, though, is the newsletter that goes out every
Yes,
Friday.
yeah, and I get the news.
Because people can subscribe to that, and
Yes.
And it's
don't need an account
predictable and, you know,
it's got tidbits, and, you know, obviously people can call the town hall and follow up on anything that they want.
Yeah.
I don't know how much of that you actually see.
Not much. Not unless there's an issue and then,
If there's an issue, then we hear about it.
I mean, when the new tax bill comes out, you're gonna hear about it,
right?
But we
as a
always,
general rule.
we always try to get out ahead of those and
Yeah.
set an expectation for people what they're seeing and why.
Yeah. I mean, the board, since I've been here, and the administration since Scott's been here, I think we've gotten more and more and more transparent and communicative with the community every year, every session. You know, I think that's been something we've tried really hard to do.
It is.
I mean, again, we had nobody online and not a single person in the audience. It does
And I mean,
sometimes get a little
I-
bit
I
like a little
agree with you,
Sisyphean.
but what I hear from people that come in here, and I see people every day, whether it's here, out on the street, telephone calls, emails, text messages, is that the reason they don't come is they feel the board is doing a great job. And that they don't have any questions or concerns. And
Yeah,
what we
true.
don't see
Is who watches
Is-
it after the fact.
is the people watching on YouTube.
Yeah, we have seen, right, and I hear from people on that. People bring up things they saw on YouTube to me pretty regularly.
Amazed at the number of people who tell me they watch YouTube videos of planning board and select board meetings afterwards.
All the time.
Yeah.
The view counts are up there, and it's actually really impressive.
Yeah, that asynchronous engagement, it's hard for us to see, but it
They're
is
not
out
engaging
there.
with us, but they're
yeah.
aware of what's going
Yeah.
on. And
True.
And those people that hear something at a meeting that have question, they'll call. They'll call the next day.
yeah.
And we appreciate that when you do.
Yes.
But
Yeah, I think if we entertain bringing back something like the Campus Community Council, that we shouldn't call it Campus Community Council. We should have its focus be something wider than just the campus. Maybe the campus is a part of it, but to kind of what Nick was talking about, there are other entities, maybe we invite some of them in.
I mean, I think, one of the things is that we have been more aggressive on how we're policing our town. And that shows from the Pirate Party. It shows from Spring Fling. It shows that there's zero tolerance to disruptive behavior in our neighborhoods. And I can honestly tell you, I had 2 emails with regards to Spring Fling this past Saturday. But the calls I get every day is that we're not seeing the disruptive behavior in our neighborhoods.
Yeah.
And I think that goes to credit of the police department upping the patrolling and upping the enforcement and the zero tolerance. And we didn't have that a lot in the past. I mean, we let things kind of go. And as far as I'm
And sort of
concerned,
threw our hands up and said, well, there's nothing we can do about it.
right. And
Yeah.
The ESU has also
we've done
offered
that.
more events for students to participate in,
Yeah.
to hopefully encourage people to stay away from some of that.
But I didn't hear anything about, and maybe you can tell me that there were some, and I'll be surprised, but I didn't hear anything about signs being torn up or lamp posts being torn down, and that was,
No.
typically we were gonna have a few signs or a lamp post from Spring Fling.
Or pizza boxes on Main Street on Sunday morning. I mean, those are things we'd seen in the
Couches
past.
on fire, the whole typical recipe.
I stop by and see all the off-campus landlords at least once a week.
Yeah.
And I don't get the complaints.
That's good.
Any other public comment?
Motion to adjourn.
I'll second it.
Any discussion about that? All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.